All right, let's see if y'all hear me now. I'm giving up on my AirPods. They just don't work. Can you all hear me now? I don't know what's wrong with them. They do not work with this application. All right, can you all hear me now? All right, now I got to say good morning to everybody again. I think you all can hear me. Let's see. Everybody's still saying no sound. Good morning. Let's see. I think the sound looks like it's working on my end. You all tell me. Okay, you can hear now. It's my AirPods. I don't know what's wrong with them. But I was in a meeting the other day with a guy, and his AirPods weren't working. So I think it has to be the AirPods. All right, I'm gonna start again. Good afternoon. Hello, Crystal. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday, everybody. I am happy to see you all here. All right, you can hear me. Good, good, good. I'm glad you can. All right. Good morning. All right, so I am going to kick this off. We're going to do the segment. Hi, Sandra. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Glad you're here. Hope you are well. I am always thinking of you. Hey, Key. Okay, we got a full house. All right, let me do my kickoff, and then we are going to, let's see, all right. Good job, Jewel. All right. Happy Sunday morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're located. Good morning or good afternoon to you. My name is Jewel Pearson. This is Miss Bohemian Soul TV. This is the segment Creating Home a Tiny House series, and we are today going to kick off What's Your Question, where I'm answering a frequently asked tiny house question. But there are two other segments in the series where we have the conversations on intimate spaces, where we're interviewing someone in or around the tiny house movement, and then the community conversations, where we're just literally sharing together in conversation. As I introduce myself, I always say I built a kind of fancy tiny house in 2015, before tiny houses were really a thing, and definitely before fancy tiny houses were a thing. And since that time, I have shared my journey to inspire others who are interested in the movement. I do offer coaching and consultations to help others in that journey. And once this video goes live, you will be able to find links in the video description so that you can schedule and connect with me. And as I'm doing that, I also serve up a lot of representation in the movement. I do want us to see ourselves in this movement and be able to be successful in this movement. So happy Sunday. Hi, Rachel. Glad to have you. Happy Sunday, everybody. Good afternoon, Lorraine. Glad to have you here. Okay, so we haven't done one of the frequently asked questions segments in quite a while. Today the question that we're going to be talking to is, where can I place a tiny house, which is the number one question in the tiny house movement on wheels, because of the challenges in most cities and counties around tiny houses on wheels, and placement being the challenge. And then for Black people and people of color, the question becomes, where can I place a tiny house and also be safe? Because rural spaces, RV parks, where tiny houses on wheels are most often accepted, aren't always safe spaces for people that look like us. And so in addition to trying to find a location, you also have to find a location that is safe. And so I've done two other videos around tiny house placement. So this is video number 3, and I will share the links to those videos in the video description once this goes live. But this one is to introduce the application that I've been working on to you all, which is Cooperative Communities. And I want to share that because it answers a lot of the question of, where can I place my tiny house? And so For those of you who have been along in this journey with me for a while, you are aware that maybe I think it's been 4 or 5 years ago now, I started offering a manual service to connect farmers, black farmers, with tiny house owners, black and brown tiny house owners, in a mutual cooperation opportunity. So as I've shared about black farmers, and I'll share that information as well, in a link to the information in the video. They are having their land, their property taken by often by the government, heirs, property, taxes. There have been lawsuits from governmental or corporate entities where they've sold farmers seed that was actually not seed, and obviously the farmer's not going to know that until they plant that, and then the crop doesn't come through. There was a lawsuit where a vendor, a corporation, was actually selling seed that was not actually even seed. And so by the time a farmer goes through that season of planting and harvesting only to find they don't have a crop, then they're obviously going to lose money and risk the potential of losing a lot of money, losing the farm and all of the things. So I don't have the numbers off of the top of my head of what over these last years, many years, the numbers have shrunken. I think shrunken is the right word, for farm ownership. There used to be a lot more black farmers than there are now. And so my initiative many years ago was to assist those farmers as well as assist tiny house owners, current, future tiny house owners, with cooperative economics. So farmers have land. I am actually on a farm my house is on a farm right now. So connecting a farmer with a tiny house owner. It's not for sale of that land. It was for renting a parking space. That's what I'm doing. I don't own this land, but renting a parking space for a tiny house. And so that tiny house owner has safety on this farm. And then that tiny house owner is paying rent to that farmer. The tiny house owner might also offer assistance on the farm, labor on the farm, if that is something that they are interested in doing, and if that's something that they work out. And so my nose is itching all of a sudden. Sorry, y'all. That's something, somebody talking about me, something. And so that was the effort that I started 4, 5, 6 years ago, and it was a manual process. And I was collecting information, spreadsheet, and each month I would email the connections. And so what I have done now is, and it grew into a thankful for growth, obviously, but it grew into something that became way too much to handle manually. And so for the last 6 to 9 months, I have been working on trying to figure out how to automate this process. And what I'm going to share now is the Cooperative Communities application. It is available. It is the official launch will be one day next week. I have a couple of things that I need the developers to work on as I Q&A'd it, some things that I want them to work on to improve some of the search functionality. But it is available, and I think it's pretty amazing. So I want to share that with you all today. May is saying the black farmer has been experiencing difficulties for too long. Absolutely. And then I see Crystal clarified black people. It is, yeah. And then Crystal says, let me not start. Like, that's a whole conversation that the challenges, and you often see people say, why is it that you all are always talking about racism, and if you all would stop talking about it, it would go away. That's not how that works. And it is something that we experience on a regular. It is the experience is baked into the system, so it's not something that's ever going to go away unless the systems are completely broken down and started again. Like, our systems are based on our government, our systems, our judicial systems, all of the systems, the penal system, all of that is based on the black man being 3/5 of a man. That's how it started. So less than black people not being seen as human. And so those systems started with that as the foundation. They've not been, I don't even know that they can be recalibrated. Like, these systems just completely need to be broken completely down and restarted with actually the people doing the work, not old white men. But that's a whole different conversation. So anyway, thank you. So hi, Frederick. So I see a question about a heart. It might be showing up because I have the brown background. I don't know. Hey, Robert. Happy to have you. Thank you very much. Good morning. Hi, Judith. So yes, so that is what I want to share with you all. Hi, Effie Gaskin. Good to see you. Shangri-La is saying racism is baked into the founding of the country. Absolutely. Yes. If we stop talking about it, they'll feel more comfortable, which is why they're taking the DE&I stuff out of schools, all of the things that they're trying to do to silence us as a people. I've gotten to the point where I don't read comments and things anymore. Like last week, as we were talking about the black-owned tiny house community, and somehow the white woman made it to the comments and said that conversation was the epitome of racism. Like, first of all, you don't know the definition of racism. It could potentially be prejudice, if that's what you want to talk about, but racism assumes some power. Racism is power of money, power of white supremacy, power of those government systems that we were just talking about, that lean toward white supremacy and white privilege. And to talk about a black-owned tiny house community versus understanding that the large majority of tiny house communities are white-owned, like it's the unspoken. Like, you don't even have to say white-owned tiny house community because it is white-owned. Like, that's it. Black-owned is calling out that this is a black-owned community, or the fact that we're proud that there is a black-owned tiny house community, and also for the fact that for someone like me who has a tiny house and needs to be aware of safe spaces, I can already know, as I'm having conversations with this tiny house community, that they're also aware of the challenges and the concerns and the safety issues that I need to be aware of, and that they factored that into their planning. So anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but that is the conversation. Hello, hi, Bob. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Welcome to all the newbies. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of the things. Absolutely not racism. I gave her an opportunity to respond, which she never did. Yes, see, I felt like she was a troll, but I did want to offer her an opportunity to share her thoughts, but of course she didn't. So anyway, I want to talk through, share the application with you. It again is Cooperative Communities. Let me get my screen together to Hello, PRNV. All right, so we are looking now at cooperative communities. This is the application that I have been working on that has vexed my soul in so many ways, that has reminded me that I can't always strive for perfection. I have a quote that I ended up putting on my desk. It says the power is in your presence and not in your perfection. I am a recovering perfectionist, which does not do me any good to be in perfectionist mode. This has been an effort in growing. Let's see. Let me drop the link, because Crystal reminds me of all the things I should be doing and how I should be ready, and I'm not. Okay, so this is Cooperative Communities. Let's see, why are you over here? Okay, yes, all right. So the background here, and there is a my screen isn't large enough to show this picture, but this is Tiny Living in, let me see if I enlarge it, if you'll be able to see it. There it is. There's a acknowledgement that this is the Tiny Living community that Eric, that we spoke to a few months ago. This is his community in Cape Charles, I believe that's the name of the city. That's their community, and I'll drop the link to his community in the chat as well. So if you want to review that video or get in touch with Eric and visit that community. Excuse me. All right, so this is Cooperative Communities. This is the home page. On this page, I'm trying to figure out the best way to walk through it. So this is, again, just a home page that talks through, it has some news for you, upcoming events. Cooperative Communities, how it works, is what I was just saying. It's a resource for community and connection. It is designed to answer the question that is the barrier to tiny house entry, which is, where can I place my tiny house? And then it takes it a step further for Black, Indigenous, people of color, brown folks. Where can I place my tiny house and be safe? And so this application was created prioritizing the BIPOC community. It is open to everyone to participate. It is not just for Black and brown folks, but again, it started years ago out of the need for safety, as I experienced racism and had to relocate my house twice because of racism and issues in an RV park and also on a farm in a rural space. And so the idea was born of that, because I didn't want anyone else to have to experience that. So this, again, is open to everyone to participate. It assumes that everyone that is participating is aware of those challenges, supports those challenges with their participation, and they want to work together so that there are opportunities for mutual wealth building, cooperative economics, that we're maintaining our own profiting together, and that there's some intent in ensuring that the Black and brown communities can also participate in the tiny house movement safely as our counterparts. The bottom of this page kind of talks to the opportunities here within the application, and then there are some frequently asked questions. It is a membership-based service. I'm going to go back and talk about that in just a minute. Frequently asked questions: why the need for cooperative communities? Who can join? Again, everyone is welcome. It was designed to prioritize safety, but it's also open to participation to everyone who understands the need for this service and respects and supports that mission. When I talk about, so one of the things that you all know I talk about a lot with you all is the need to do your due diligence. So as this is a membership service that will be open to everyone. There is no vetting that I am doing on the back end to vet the people who participate here. So it is expected that everyone participating will do their due diligence. And so if you're a tiny house owner and you're looking for a tiny house property, my expectation would be that you would do your due diligence to have the conversations with the property owners and do some researching to ensure everything is on the up and up, and that you put together some a rental agreement, as I do, for partnering with that landowner. In reverse, if you're a property owner, I'm going to show you all the options, but if you're a property owner and you're looking for tenants for your land or for your farm or for your backyard, the expectation is that you'd also do your own due diligence to vet those tiny house owners that you're in conversation with. There's also a space here for tiny house builders that I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. There's a space for people who sell tiny houses or have a tiny house that they want to rent, to advertise that information. And then there's also a space for community building and networking. So people who want to have a space where they can connect with other like-minded individuals. So I'm interested in living tiny, and I'd like to build a small community, or with like-minded people. I want to grow food. I want to homeschool. All of those things I might want to do, and I would like to create community with some other like-minded folks. There's a space here for that to happen as well, so that and you don't have to have the land. Maybe you own the land, you don't have the land, but you want to get together with some other folks to see what that opportunity looks like. And so there is space here for that as well. But the underlying theme for all of that and the expectation is that people are doing their own due diligence. There is no ownership on my part of ensuring that people are who they say they are. That is the due diligence that I talk about regularly. This is a platform for community connection and advertising. This is not a guarantee of outcomes, and so I can't stress that enough. And then this initially, as I was doing this work manually and making the connections, it was only open to tiny houses, stick-built tiny houses on wheels. This is now open to stick-built tiny houses on wheels, shed to tiny house conversions, schoolies, RVs, van dwellers. This conversation, what can be accepted, is the decision is being left up to the property owner discretion on how they wish to, who they can support, and how they wish to proceed. So this is opening it up to accommodate other types of tiny houses. The expectation is that people will enter in to contracts, legal agreements, rental agreements, all of those things, so that you're able to protect yourself and your interest. I always talk about my rental agreement when I go on someone's property. Clearly points out that I own my tiny home and I am just renting parking space on that land. And so all of those things, if you were to find a tiny house builder here, the expectation is that you'll do all of the things to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and you have written agreements and contracts in place. All right, so this is, again, a membership-based service. All right, so I'm going to go back to outline the opportunities that are here. So properties for tiny house parking. Let's see. So if I'm looking up at the top here, there are properties for tiny house parking. So this segment of people, and I'm going to show you profiles here. The properties for tiny house parking are going to be people that have land available and want to offer it to tiny house owners for parking. This does not necessarily accommodate, excuse me, does not necessarily accommodate sales. That was not my intent. If a conversation goes that route between a tiny house owner and a landowner, that's y'all's business. It doesn't have anything to do with me. But the intent as I put this together was for renting parking on someone's property. The second option here is for tiny house owners seeking parking for their tiny houses. Again, this is for all of the various options for tiny houses that I just spoke about. It is not just tiny houses on stick-built tiny houses on wheels, schoolies, RVs, van dwellers, all of shed to tiny house conversions. All of those options. This is for current tiny house owners. This is also for future tiny house owners. And so one of the main challenges that keeps people from entering into the movement is how I want to build a tiny house, but I don't know where I'll place it. So this conversation can now happen in advance, where you can connect with someone and make a determination, find a location before you even start building using this resource. I'll say now that for people who do that, people who want to offer the property, just so you're aware in case you aren't familiar with how this works, I don't know statistics, but I'm going to throw out 9 times out of 10 that person is going to want some money to hold that property. So just FYI. But it's possible now to have that conversation so that you can feel more confident in moving into building. The community building and networking, and again, I'm going to show you profiles for within all of these sections. The community building and networking is for folks who, like I said, want to connect with other like-minded people. And then the tiny house builder. So, and I'm sorry, community building and networking, so that you can have conversation. This is a conversation discussion space so that you can connect with people. The tiny house builder space, excuse me, y'all. Tiny house builder space is for not necessarily big companies. Big building companies can absolutely advertise here, but this is for the one-off general contractor, tiny house builder who is out there and doesn't have a way to access people who are interested in building tiny houses. And so this allows that person to advertise the work that they've been doing and to get in front of people who are interested in building. Again, do your own diligence. This is, again, a networking platform, but it is up to the individual to ensure that they do their due diligence to make sure they're able to take advantage of good services. But this is that platform to allow a tiny house builder who doesn't have a big company that is entering into the market or has built a couple of tiny houses but doesn't have a platform to advertise and get in front of the movement. And then tiny houses, again, for sale or rent. This is, and this can be all of the types of tiny houses that someone might have for sale or for rent. And so I want to go back. I'm going to show you some of the profiles. Okay, so this is a sample profile of a property owner. And this is what you would see. This is someone who has gone in and entered their information. They have property. And so when you go to their profile, they would have a profile picture over on the left-hand side. And you see on the right-hand side, you can contact this profile, this property owner, if you read their information and you're interested. So on the right-hand side, you're able to send them a message. There's also another send a message button right here. If they enter their telephone number, you can call them. Here, so on their profile, you see an overview of them and their property. So they write a description. I have 2 acres. Again, this is a sample. I just created it. I have 2 acres of land in a rural city and I'm interested in renting to a tiny house owner. Then they can provide their contact information. The land lease, this is their company logo. It's a reminder to you all to put stuff in writing. But here are the details down here. The types of tiny houses accepted on the property. Stick-built tiny houses on wheels. There are some options. There are several options, and I think I can show you. I can show you. There are several options available, but it's up to the individual to indicate what types of tiny houses they can accept on the property. They can also indicate whether they're a Black-owned business, where they're located, the rental term lengths that they're offering availability for, when the property is available, how many houses they can accommodate, and what infrastructure they have available on the property. Here, power and water are available on site. And then their specialties here. They have property in, which is a farm in rural area. They also have raw, undeveloped land. They also have a tiny house community. And so you can request information based on what your interest is. And then, let's see. That's not what I meant to do. Hold on a second. This isn't the same property, but they can also go in. I'll go back to that profile in a minute. They can go off. The property owner can also go in and add pictures of their property, and so then you'd be able to see the property that they have available. Again, this is just a sample profile that I have entered here to show you what it is available for the property owner. I did see a question about, let me see. Dominique is asking, do we need to research local laws to be sure the landowner can legally rent out their land? That's going to be up to the individual. So, as I share, as we talk about here, the rules are different in every city and county. There is a large contingent of people, myself included, who kind of we've asked for permission a few times, and then we determine the answer is always going to be no. And so we just decide that we're going to do things kind of in that gray area or in that undercover area. And then as I do, I'm working in these conversations with city and county and government officials to change minds. But in the interim, I'm living in my house. And so I am existing in that gray area. If I were to go and ask for permission, the answer would most likely be no. And so it is up to the individual. It is up to the individual tiny house owner. It is up to the individual property owner, the route that they want to go. If the property owner wants to be on the up and up and have those conversations to ensure it is okay in their area, they are welcome to have that conversation. If the property owner decides, I've asked and the answer is no, or maybe I don't want to ask because I know the answer is no, but I still want to offer this to a tiny house owner, and I do talk about that. I do talk about that in detail as well in the Where Can I Place a Tiny House 1 and 2 videos, which I'm going to share the links. They just might decide we're going to exist in a gray area and I'm going to offer tiny house parking. It is going to be up to the tiny house owner if that's an acceptable agreement with them. So again, this is all left up to the interpretation of the property owner as well as the tiny house owner as how you want to proceed. If you're existing in that gray area and you're not asking for permission, the expectation, the understanding is that you're going to then be on a property that already has existing buildings and infrastructure, because then you're going to tap off of those existing buildings and infrastructure for your power, for your water, for the needs of your home, because again, you can't go and ask for permission as you're existing in that gray area. So again, that conversation is going to, those decisions are going to be based on individual scenarios. Thank you, Crystal. Here's another question. If a prospective member of this site is looking for a parking space and they are interested in building community, do they have to pay the membership fee ×2? So that is one of the things where I said I had a search, some work I have for the developers. There's also an option that I am going to add for, because I just thought about that yesterday. I hadn't thought about it before. So there's going to be an option to upgrade from either way, as a from the community building and networking to also the tiny house owner seeking seeking parking, and vice versa. So there will be a not a full 2 times membership required, but an upgrade to participate in both. And I do have that on my list. So thank you for calling that out. That is going to be an opportunity. You will not have to pay for a full membership twice, but there will be an upgrade option. Let me see if there are any other questions. Thank you so much, Dominique. Thank you, Crystal. You know, this has been my baby. Thank you, Frederick. Hey, Day. Let's see. All right, let me see if there's another question before I keep showing you all the site. Hi, Terry. Dominique is saying, seems this gray area could give opponents a way to cause trouble for us. It depends. So in the gray area that I exist in, I'm low key. You don't exist in a gray area where folks can see you, where you're out in the open. That's not how the gray area works. If you're existing in that gray area, you're going in, and again, I would encourage you to watch videos 1 and 2 of the types of properties that you're interested in. If you're existing in that gray area, you are not existing in a gray area, in a space where you're out for and available for everybody to see you and to cause you trouble, or to cause the property owner trouble. That's not how that works. So again, videos 1 and 2 in the so you can understand what that looks like. And yes, Crystal indicated that usually farms are big enough that no one knows what's going on. Yes, so you're again looking for a property. If you're looking for a property where you're not advertising that you're just out there. And then again, there are some areas where that are going to be legal. Okay, so Dominique is saying, but law can be enforced selectively. If so I have been on this property for over 3 years. For the most part, nobody knows I'm here. Because like Crystal said, the property is big enough that I'm not out in the open. It's not a highly traveled area. That is the way I have existed on all of the properties that I've been on. And then if something comes up, which it has come up before, where I've been required to move, so where I've often said tiny house living at this point is on wheels is not for the faint of heart. It is for somebody who is willing to assume some risk. So I've lived in my house almost 10 years now, or 10 years. I'm losing count. But my house has wheels, and so I know, should I have to move it, I'll move it. I have plans A through Z on deck to come up with another location. So it's not the end of the world, and it is a risk that I am willing to take. So again, that's kind of how that works. Here's another question. The landowner has a water line and electricity on the land for rent. Are they responsible for the plumbing for the tiny house renters? So that would be a conversation that you would have with the landowner. And the landowner might want to go ahead and have that infrastructure in place and offer it to the tiny house renters. Or the landowner might require that you pay for that infrastructure for your house yourself. I personally, let me see, my very first place I was in was an RV park. So the infrastructure was there for me just to plug in. The second place I went to was a guy's backyard. and we split the cost of the infrastructure. It was the first time he was offering his space for a tiny house on wheels, and he felt like he still does. He felt like he was going to offer that space to tiny housers in the future, and so the infrastructure was something that he was going to need going forward. So what we did was decide to split it. The location I am in now, I have paid for the infrastructure to be in place here. The property owner did some of the infrastructure work in digging the trench for me, but I've paid for the infrastructure to be in place here. One of the things that I offer as I'm asking to be on someone's land is I offer that I will pay for that, and I will bring in licensed contractors who are familiar with my home, and so that I can make that property owner feel comfortable. Again, that is going to be on a case-by-case conversation and basis. Let me see. The V is saying the detail you provide on this app is a lesson and resource by itself, in addition to what you're doing to help both sides to connect. Thank you so much. Thank you, V. I appreciate that. Do your due diligence. Absolutely. Let me see if there's another question so I can. Okay, so I'm gonna pause on the questions and I'm gonna keep doing the walkthrough. Okay, so that is the property owners. Okay, so now I want to let's go in. I want to show you. This is the back end, so you all won't see this. This is me in the admin section. So now I want to show you, this is a sample profile of a tiny house owner seeking parking. And so the picture I borrowed from the interwebs is actually my friend Tree. This is the profile picture. This is when he was looking for parking in DC, and he created a flyer to give information about himself. And again, I talk about doing this if you're doing this outside of this application, I talk about what to do in tiny house, the videos 1 and 2 that I'm gonna share the link to. So this flyer, and Tree was in my workshop in DC with Crystal, and after the very first day of the workshop, Tree went home and created his, based on the stuff that I taught in the workshop. Tree went home and started drafting his plans for his tiny house, and he built his tiny house very soon after the workshop, and has successfully lived in his tiny house, and he rents it out also. All right, so this is the information that you would see for a tiny house, someone seeking parking for a tiny house. And so the profile tells about that tiny house. Are they a current or future tiny house owner? He's a current tiny house owner. The type of tiny house that he owns, if it's something other than the categories that I've listed, then they have an opportunity to indicate what type of home it is. If it's a future owner, when will your tiny house be completed or purchased? What rental term lengths you're interested in? If your tiny house is on grid, if it's on grid or off grid, so that the property owner can know what your requirements are, and then the size of your house, the size and length of your house, and then how soon you're looking for placement. And again, here you have the same contact options. And then in the specialties here, this is a current tiny house owner. You can request information. And then the photo albums, this is what I was trying to show you, and it didn't show up on that other profile. Here's the photo album that the property owner as well as the tiny house owner have the opportunity to create. And so in your photo album, you then add photos and talk about what your needs. So for the tiny house owner, you would include pictures of your tiny house. That's what Tree's tiny house looks like, and it's beautiful. Even though this is a concept, that is exactly what his house looks like. So you would add pictures of your tiny house and give details about yourself. Kind of like the flyer. The background is, tell something about yourself, if it's a family, what you do for work, the things that you would want somebody that you're asking to allow them to live on your property, on their property, to know about you. And so that is the tiny house owner. And then we're going to go back. I'm going to show you all the profiles. So that's the tiny house owner. And then here's a sample profile of a tiny house builder that I created. The tiny house builder goes in and enters information about themselves. You contact them the same type of way. They can include a resume so that you can see their resume. They can tell you whether it's a Black-owned business, if they're licensed, what year they were licensed, what their tiny house build certifications are, if they have them, have they built previous tiny homes, yes or no, the number of houses that they've built before, if they have references that they can provide, whether they offer financing, and then their contact information. And then they also, like everybody else, can include photo albums. And so here in the photo album, this is, again, just an example. This is their first tiny house build that they completed in January of 2024. And then they would include pictures of that tiny house build. And so then you could reach out to this tiny house builder if you were interested in talking to them about building a tiny house for you. Again, same contact information, and then again, you do your due diligence. That's not. All right, here is tiny houses for sale. Well, let me go in the order. Here is community building and networking. Here's a sample profile. Okay, so you enter the information. Here's your contact information. You can tell whether you already have existing land or if this is for a planned future community. Then here's an article that they posted about building a better world, how intentional communities are shaping the future. And so they posted this article. They felt like this article had good thoughts or great points about building intentional community. So you can have a discussion around this article. Maybe it's something that they created to talk about the type of community that they want to create, and then they share it and people can then join in conversation with them about whatever this document is that they've created to open the discussion. They can also share photo albums. Okay, so maybe they've been out looking at property, or maybe if this is somebody who has a community, then they can share photo albums of the property. So for this one this is a future planned community, they were looking at some property. And again, sample photos. They were looking at some property in New Mexico, and this is what the property looked like. And so they shared some pictures. What do you think about that? So you can have some conversation about the property that they saw. And then there's the discussion board. And so they entered a topic about asking what are your requirements for an intentional community. And so then you can have some conversation here around what intentional community means to you. And then everybody can chime in and you can have some conversation. You could from here also decide, we want to have some meetups. We want to look at this property. What are your thoughts on where you want to be located? This is the section to facilitate all of that discussion. This is, again, the community building and networking. And then the last profile is the tiny houses for sale. And so this tiny houses for sale profile, this is actually the only one that the membership is required. But this is the only one that is actually open to the public. And I'll show you this one in just a minute. And so the list information about their company, and then they can list information about the tiny houses that they have for sale. And so here's a schoolie that they have for sale. Here's a stick built. Well, that's not really, y'all know this is a sample. But it shows the options, and then you can look at, they can add pictures of the tiny house and some details of the tiny house. And if you're interested in contacting them, you can then reach out to them in those same ways. And so let me go to the main pages. So if you're a member, again, this is a membership-based system. Tiny houses for sale or rent is the only section of the site that is open to the general public. So no one, you don't have to have a membership to be able to find a tiny house for sale here. I'll show you where this is available on the main page, but if you go to, I clicked on the tiny houses for sale or for rent. Here is you can see the status for sale or for rent, the property type, stick-built tiny house on wheels. Is it a schoolie? Is it a van? Is it other? Is it new or pre-owned? Do they offer financing? Square footage? All of the things. And then you could search for tiny houses for sale or for rent. Again, this is open to the general public. And so for someone who has a tiny house for sale or for rent, you could advertise on the site, have access to the people who are interested in owning and haven't yet bought. And then also anyone outside, here's a platform that they can come and see what you have for sale and or for rent. Let's see. I wanted to show. Okay, and so to search for properties for tiny house parking. And so here are the options. So you could search for a property that's a farm or a rural area. You could search for a backyard or urban area. Maybe it's an RV park or campground. It could be raw undeveloped land, which just heads up, if you're on raw undeveloped land, that means your tiny house is off grid, because you on raw undeveloped land, that means the infrastructure is not there. And if your tiny house is on wheels, the city county is most likely not going to allow you to have one, to exist on that land, and then two, to have access to infrastructure. So if it's raw undeveloped land, you're just there and you're off grid. Or it could be a tiny house community that the property owner has. And so they indicate all of that as they're completing their profile, and then the tiny house owner can then come in and search accordingly. For the property owner that is looking for tiny house people, their option for searching is whether that tiny house person is a current tiny house owner or a future tiny house owner, and some of the requirements that they answer, when they're looking to rent. And then what's my other one? Community building is just going to be being able to look, search by location. Right now, so the one thing I have to work with the developers on is putting my search boxes in the right places. And so that is something that is still to be fixed before it officially launches. Let me see, the homepage is where I was going to go. The homepage, this is what I wanted to show you. So the homepage, again, this is the main page that you come to. And here is, again, the search box for tiny houses for sale or rent. And so, again, this is the space that is open to anyone coming to the site. Everything else, finding tiny house parking, finding tiny house owners, creating community gathering in communication with other like-minded individuals, or looking for tiny house builders. That all requires you to be a member of the site. That information is behind the membership wall. But the tiny houses for sale or rent is open to the general public. Events. These are real events. These are my events that I have upcoming that I will keep this site updated on. And then news articles is open to the public, and just information. This first article here is an article that where I did a story talking about this site that I'm going to share out to once the site officially launches. Okay, let me go back so I can look at questions to see. That is the site. I'm pretty proud of it. Let me see if there's some questions that I can answer. I'm going to add this one again. Do your due diligence. Day is saying, I checked with my city and got the okay to host visitors with smaller homes on wheels like vans and Class C campers throughout the year for no longer than a week. I'm renting my huge driveway. That's beautiful. Yes, this site is for long-term renters. But if it's temporary, absolutely. It is to be used as you would like to use it. Let's see. Yes, gray area equals on the down low. Absolutely. You are welcome to use this site, Day. There are that where you, as a property owner, you could, all of that information, you could absolutely include that information. Let me go back to the property owner, the profile. You have plenty of opportunity to indicate what your requirements are here. Rental term lengths available 0 to 6 months. You could indicate some of the details. There's an opportunity to indicate additional details. So you have that opportunity to enter your scenario that works for you. Let's see. Future land purchase and plans defines my interest in the community. Absolutely. I'm glad you see some benefit here. Please do like, share, sub, and support. Let's see. Thank you, Crystal. Very welcome. You are very welcome. Yes, Tree's tiny house is available for rent. Cynthia's asking, what type of insurance should you secure to protect yourself and the landowner? So tiny house insurance is a little bit challenging because you can't do the state farms, the Geico's, and all of those things. And so the thought early on in the movement around tiny house insurance was to, because you're saving money, just know that you need to save you save money so that you have savings should something happen, because insurance is more difficult to have. I will share links, and I've talked about insurance before. I'm not exactly what video it is. I can share links to the tiny house insurance that I'm aware of, but it is a challenge. Last time I looked, it was a little more expensive than the general insurance, but it is available. But it is not going to be your State Farms and your Geicos and those types of things. It is not going to be your standard options for renters or homeowners insurance, just because it's on wheels. They haven't gotten there yet. Thank you, Terry. You can insure, so Crystal pointed out that the trailers need insurance like car insurance. So the trailer that my house is built on has a VIN number, has a tag. And so, yes, you can insure it just like a car, but that does not mean that you're going to, should you have a claim, it does not mean that they are going to pay off for the tiny house. I just want to put that out there. They have no idea on that trailer that I've built a whole house. And so if I were to need to submit a claim, and then I say, this was a tiny house on wheels and they've insured a trailer, there's a big gap in discrepancy. So just FYI. WLJ is saying, this is amazing, and I'm sure it was a labor of love for you. This is very detailed and demonstrates how much care and concern you have for the community. Thank you so much. I had to offer myself grace in that as I was so frustrated with the time this was taking to get to launch, that I realized it was at the level of how I do things. And it was and again, the perfection piece of it, but like you're saying, the care and concern that I have for the community. And as I've thought about this offering, I wanted it to be an offering that I have wanted and needed in the movement, and what I would have wanted to know, and that was what I wanted to create. And so I thank you very much for that. It is my love for the movement. It is my love for my community. It is my activism for my community, because I want us to have resources. Again, this is open to everyone, but I have prioritized our community because I want us to be part of this movement and have resources to ensure our safety in this movement. Terry is asking, when will the site go live? It is live now. My intent is I have some more details, and so I have some more details to work on within the search capabilities, but that will be going on behind the scenes. My intent, it has sample profiles in there right now, but my intent is to go first to the property owners. And I think there were like 100, maybe 150 property owners that I had on my list from the manual process. It is my intent to go to them first and to offer them access to this site. I originally thought about just importing them into the site, excuse me, but I've changed my mind about importing them because I want each individual person to, one, be active in the community and really want to participate. And I also want them to have ownership of their profile and to enter their information as they'd like to have their information entered in their profile. So I am reaching out to them initially to let them know that the site is live and to ask them to participate. And I will offer them a discount for their participation. I'm thinking something like the first quarter free, so that they will be interested in participating. It won't be free to them because obviously, as they get tenants, they'll be making money. So, and this site costs money. Like the free work that I was doing is done. Like that manual process with my Excel spreadsheet, that was the free work that I did for many years. That is done. So, but I want to encourage their participation because I need their participation for my tiny house owners. So that is my first step in asking them to participate, so that I can have have their them in the sites for the tiny house owners. And then, general overall advertising to make people aware that this is out here and available. This is a service to me that is really needed. So I hope that it is seen by the overall community as such, as needed. But it is going to be growing, of course, as people have to know it's out there and available. But my first intention is to offer it to, as I mentioned, the property owners, the various property owners that I have been working with in the past, to ask them to participate, to offer them something for their participation so that they can see the value in the system, and then we go from there. I will also, for my Patreon members will receive a discount for participating in the system, because that is access to offerings is something that is part of the Patreon membership. So there will be a discount for Patreon members as well for their participation. Thank you, Dominique. Thank you so much. Golda, happy Sunday and last day of Pride Month, y'all. Greeting from NYC. Happy Sunday to you. And happy Pride Month to you. Thank you, Crystal. Speaking of insurance, how does that work for a tiny house, more specifically a tiny house on foundation? So a tiny house on foundation, you are following, I'm not talking about a shed to tiny house conversion. I am talking about a tiny house on foundation that you would be building, and you would then be working through the conventional permitting process. And so a tiny house on foundation is going to be the same as a traditional tiny house on foundation And you then would be able to, you would be insuring your house through the same methods of traditional houses, because the only difference in your tiny house on foundation and traditional houses is the size, but you're going to follow the same process and have the same options for insurance. Thank you, Elle. Thank you so much. Yes, Crystal said tiny house on foundation is the same as a bigger house. Yes. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Golda. I appreciate that. This is my baby. Kudos, great vision and blessings on future execution. Thank you so much. Thank you, Letitia. Oh, you're fine, Crystal. Rachel is saying Lords of London was a tiny house insurance provider and still may be. I've forgotten who I have the tiny house representatives. I don't know exactly the companies they represent. Thank you, May. Thank you, Crystal. I thank you. This is excellent. Will you have a discussion regarding purchasing your own property as a tiny home owner, pros and cons, not to build a community, but for self? Purchasing your own property. Possibly. That could be possibly. I've got some workshops coming up. That could be something that we talk about as an aside. Yes. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, Frederick. I appreciate that. Okay, I think I've answered all of the questions. I'm going back to see if there are any other questions. I'm trying to go all the way back. Let's see. Again, this is Cooperative Communities. Let's see. All right, I think I've answered all the questions. If there's a question that I missed, please. Thank you, Frederick. I hope so. Thank you, Sadiq. Sadiq is asking, when you designed your home, did you already have all of your furniture ahead of time? Let's see. So the original tiny house on wheels, the only furniture I have in my tiny house is a couch, and a mattress. The other stuff is accessories. So I don't really have furniture in my tiny house. I have a small table in my kitchen. The couch I did not have. The couch I purchased specifically for my tiny house. It is a Love Sack sectional. I purchased it specifically for my tiny house because it kind of goes together like I would say kind of like Legos. And so it is able to be configured around the wheel well that you'll need to incorporate in your design for a tiny house on wheels that you're building on a custom tiny house trailer. And so the a couch with a straight back is not necessarily going to be the best option for accommodating that wheel well. And so that is the only furniture I have in the tiny house. The decor, the majority of my decor, I did have before building my house. And then if I consider the add-on sunroom space, the furniture that I have in here is a bookcase, a futon from World Market that I absolutely have had for many, many years. And another kind of credenza, I guess you would call it, that I got from IKEA that's new. My desk that I'm sitting at is new. And then my TV stand is old. I had that in my house. So I don't have a lot of furniture in my tiny house. Like when you're building a tiny house on wheels, it doesn't incorporate a lot of furniture. Decor, yes, but furniture, not a lot of furniture. But my decor I've had for many, many years, most of it. Sadiq is saying, I'm currently renting and my roommate will be moving out next month, and I've paused on what I should buy furniture-wise based on my future tiny home. That's a wise decision, because furniture is not necessarily what you're going to need for the tiny house. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Crystal. Where did you purchase your appliances? So, my appliances for my tiny house are standard home appliances. The only thing that is different, so I have an apartment size refrigerator, but so I think I'm back. As we have a storm, and I think my Wi-Fi went out. I was talking to appliances. I don't have any specific tiny house appliances except for the apartment size refrigerator. And my cabinetry is IKEA cabinetry. Again, standard IKEA cabinetry. Yes, Sadiq, you have to factor in the wheel well. And so I have a triple axle trailer, and the wheel well for my triple axle trailer is 9 feet. So that is 9 feet of a wheel well that you have to accommodate. And so part of the wheel well is in like the center of the house, and then part of the wheel well goes on one side of my house. It goes behind my kitchen cabinetry, and then on the other side of the house, it is in my walk-in closet. So you have to factor that in. But no shameless plug. That's the work that I do in consulting to help design and help you think about the things that you've not considered. Oh, thank you. I just joined the Cooperative Communities and it was easy. Jewel, thank you for your labor of love. I am looking forward to using this site. Thank you so much. You got me emotional. Thank you so much. It is my labor of love. It is getting off the ground, which I know you know because we just talked about that. But Starlink for